I always believed that betrayal would come with shouting, arguments, or at least some visible storm warning. Instead, mine arrived at 6:14 a.m. on the morning of my 66th birthday. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I smiled, already imagining a sweet birthday message from my daughter, Christine. Maybe even a photo of my grandchildren holding a little cake. Something warm. Something human. But the screen lit up with only 2 cold sentences. We need space from you. Please do not reach out anymore at all. Before I could even process the words, I saw it. Dan, my own husband of 41 years, had tapped the little heart symbol beneath it. He had liked the message, as if my daughter had just shared a funny joke instead of declaring the death of our relationship. My hands trembled so violently that I almost dropped the phone. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I whispered aloud, as if asking the walls of my bedroom, "What did I do? What was my crime?" But the phone remained silent. My husband remained silent. My daughter remained silent. Only me, gasping for air in my own home. And in that moment, a spark of something unfamiliar ignited inside me. Not rage, not sorrow. Clarity. Thank you to every soul who has been watching my journey and supporting this channel. Your kindness keeps me strong. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you stay and I hope you subscribe, because stories like this, they are not just stories, they are warnings. Please like this video and tell me in the comments, what would you do if your own blood cast you out with a single message? Now, let me continue. My daughter Christine was not always this cold. She was born in the thick summer heat of Louisiana, crying so loudly that the nurses joked she would either become a singer or a lawyer. I raised her with every ounce of gentleness my mother taught me. I packed lunches with handwritten notes. I sewed Halloween costumes through sleepless nights. I paid for her college without letting her take a single loan. I helped her buy her first house. I even forgave her when she forgot my birthday 3 years in a row after marrying her husband. Yes, that is his name. Thomas. Not Dan. That is just what I call him now. Dismissive and numb. Looking back, I now realize the signs were always there. The quick eye rolls when I offered advice. The whispered conversations that stopped whenever I walked into the room. The time Christine told me, "You are a bit much sometimes," and laughed like it was harmless. But nothing, not even all those little cuts, prepared me for that message. I sat on the edge of my bed for hours staring at those 2 sentences, waiting for a second text. A just kidding, a happy birthday, a sorry, wrong tone, anything. Nothing came. And so I made a decision. I would not respond. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Until I discovered the truth behind those words. Because if my own child believed I was no longer worthy of her life, then I would show her exactly what life looked like without me in it. I did not scream. I did not beg. I did not send a single word in return. For the first time in my life, I chose silence, not as surrender, but as strategy. I made myself invisible. I stopped sending morning blessings. I stopped offering to babysit. I stopped reminding them of doctor's appointments. I stopped filling in the gaps that kept their busy lives functioning smoothly. And slowly, the silence echoed back. At first, nothing happened. A few days passed, then a week. I assumed they would at least notice my absence. But pride is a powerful drug. They stayed quiet. Until one evening, I received the first sign that my silence had landed exactly where I wanted it to. At 9:47 p.m., I heard a loud crash from the kitchen. Thomas, or rather dismissive and numb, stood frozen, staring at his credit card in disbelief. Groceries sprawled across the counter. The terminal had declined his payment. Again and again and again. He mumbled, "Must be a bank error." I continued washing dishes without a word. The next morning, Christine called him while he stood on the patio. She did not know I was near the window. "Dad, my student loan payment failed. My account is frozen. Did the trust get hacked, or did Grandma move something?" He rubbed his forehead. "Calm down. I will call the bank." He never got through, not because the line was busy, but because I had already spoken to them. I never boasted about my finances. I never draped myself in luxury. People saw my modest little house and assumed I was just another gentle Southern grandmother. They did not know that my father, a stern man of few words, had left me 200 acres of oil-rich land. They did not know that every investment I made was quietly multiplied. They did not know that the $30 million they lived on was never ours. It was mine. Every allowance, every house upgrade, every vacation they posted on social media claiming earned success, it was all me. But kindness, when unappreciated, becomes gasoline in the hands of the ungrateful. And on the day they told me to stay out of their lives, I did. Christine sent the next message 3 days later. "Hi, Mom. I hope you are okay. I did not mean for things to come across so harsh. Things have just been stressful lately." Stressful. That was her excuse. As if she had merely sneezed on me rather than severed her mother with a blade of words. Still, I remained silent. That silence drove her mad. The next text came at 2 a.m. "Why are you ignoring me now? That is so childish. I am trying to talk to you." Once again, silence. And then the knock on the door. It was not Christine. It was not Thomas. It was a lawyer. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a formal notice. This document serves as an official request for access to familial assets and trust funds belonging to Christine, followed by a clause claiming emotional neglect on my part. They were not coming to apologize. They were coming to claim what they believed was already theirs. I closed the envelope carefully, and I smiled, because this was no longer about hurt feelings. This was war. I agreed to meet them, not in court, but in a conference room at the attorney's office downtown. Neutral ground. No emotion, no sentiment. Just truth. Christine sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes cold. Thomas sat beside her, pretending to look calm, but his knee bounced uncontrollably beneath the table. Their lawyer, a polished young man barely old enough to rent a car, began speaking as if delivering a sermon. "Mrs. Whitaker, we appreciate you coming. We believe there has been a misunderstanding. Christine is simply requesting access to the funds she was promised as part of the family estate plan. The trust in your control—" I raised a single finger. "Promised? By whom?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "Well, socially, verbally, and by precedent of lifestyle, there was an implied assurance that I leaned back in my chair. So proximity to wealth is now legal entitlement. Silence. Christine's jaw tightened. Mom, you know this is not about money. It is about fairness. You supported us all our lives, and now you are punishing us. This is emotional manipulation. I let those words float in the air like smoke from a burning house. Emotional manipulation. I reached into my bag, slowly, calmly, with the same grace I once used to pack her school lunches. One by one, I placed printed documents on the table. Bank transfers, down payments, proof of college tuition, medical bills, mortgage assistance, credit card debt I cleared without telling her. Every sacrifice, every lifeline, every silent blessing she had forgotten. Christine's lips trembled as she glanced at them. You kept records? She whispered. I met her eyes without blinking. Mothers remember everything, even what children choose to forget. Thomas tried to interject. We are not denying what you have done. We are only asking for respect, financial security. You cannot expect us to start from scratch after all these years. My gaze hardened. That, I said softly, is the difference between us. You think receiving is respect. I think giving is love. No one spoke. Even the lawyer seemed to shrink back in his seat. I folded my hands on the table. You came for money. You came for inheritance. You came to see whether I am weak enough to hand it over simply because you asked. I let the silence tighten like a rope. Allow me to answer your request. I pulled out one final envelope, thicker than the rest. Christine reached for it eagerly. I did not let go. Before you open this, understand that once you see what is inside, nothing between us will ever be the same. Her eyes flickered with confusion, then arrogance, then curiosity. She snatched it from my hand. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded the document. It was my updated will. Her name was not on it. Neither was Thomas's. Their lawyer leaned forward in disbelief. Christine stared at me, pale as dust. You removed us? She whispered. My answer was a breath of ice. I did more than that. I stood up slowly. Because while you were planning how to divide my fortune, I paused. I was deciding who deserved it. Her voice cracked. Mom, what did you do? I stepped toward the door. Then I turned back and delivered the sentence that shattered everything they believed. I found someone worth saving. For a long moment, no one moved. Christine sat frozen with the will clutched in her shaking hands, as if the paper itself burned. Thomas stared at the floor, finally understanding what silence had cost him. Their lawyer opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again. There were no legal terms for what was happening here. There are courtroom battles, and then there are soul reckonings. This was the latter. Christine finally found her voice, but it came out small. Who did you give it to? I took a slow breath, not out of hesitation, but out of reverence for the decision that changed everything. To mothers like me, I said. She blinked. What? I walked back to the table and placed another document before her. A certificate bearing the seal of the Louisiana Foundation for Women and Children. I established a scholarship and housing grant, $30 million, dedicated to single mothers who were abandoned, dismissed, or overlooked. Women who raised their children without applause. Women who packed lunches at dawn and cried into sinks at night. Women who gave without contracts, who loved without conditions. Christine's voice cracked. So a stranger gets the life that was meant for me? That sentence hung in the air, a perfect mirror reflecting her truth. I lowered myself back into my chair and looked at my daughter not as a victim of her cruelty, but as a woman who had never once tasted humility. No, Christine, you had the life that was meant for you, and you wasted it believing you were entitled to more. Tears welled in her eyes, but I had seen enough tears to distinguish sorrow from self-pity. I leaned forward. You asked for space. Now you have it. You told me not to reach out. I obeyed. You declared that I was no longer needed, so I made sure you never would need me again. She broke then, shoulders trembling, breath shattering. Mom, I am sorry, she whispered. But apologies spoken under threat of consequence are not confessions of guilt, they are negotiations of loss. I placed my hand gently on the table, not touching hers, but close enough that she could feel my warmth without possessing it. I forgive you, I said softly. But forgiveness is not a bridge back to what was. Forgiveness is simply me releasing the weight of your choices. Thomas rose abruptly, unable to sit any longer. He stormed out of the room without a word. That was his answer, pride over repentance. Christine looked at me, pleading silently. Is there truly nothing left for me? I stood. There is always something left, I said. She looked hopeful for a moment. I finished quietly. But it is not wealth. It is wisdom. As I left that building, sunlight spilled across the pavement like a benediction. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from power rediscovered. People assume the greatest pain in life is being abandoned. They are wrong. The greatest pain is realizing how long you begged people to stay who were already gone. I did not lose a daughter that day. I gained freedom. If you were in my place, would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Your thoughts matter deeply to me. Please like this video if this story touched you and subscribe for more real stories of justice, redemption, and truth. Because kindness is not weakness, and silence is sometimes the loudest answer of all.